So I was out last night with some friends, mostly Ukrainian and Russian guys, and we were talking about what they experienced in Vietnam compared to what they thought they were going to experience leaving Ukraine and leaving Russia and coming here, and how things were sometimes what they expected, but sometimes it wasn't. What I want to do is I want to go over this article today with you guys. And really, I'm going to focus on this article itself. So check the link below if you want to get more details. Let me zoom my head right down here. And let's check out what we got here. So this is going to cover what to expect living in Vietnam, how you can find accommodations, the visas, the jobs, working in Vietnam, bank accounts, taxes for expat living, healthcare and insurance, and finally moving to Vietnam checklist. I don't know if we'll cover that part, but let's look into it. That's seriously amazing looking. Isn't that in China or something? Now fans spin. I have honestly never seen that, and I've been in Vietnam forever. So anyways, let's get into it. So what to expect with living in Vietnam as an expat, life in Vietnam. Is Vietnam safe for expats? So we're going to check out the headings. Quick answer, yes. Vietnam is actually one of the more safer countries. Most crime that happens out here that we experience as non-Vietnamese citizens is petty theft, and somebody will break in your house sometimes. Somebody will steal something stupid from you. Like, I've had a phone stolen. I've had money stolen, like small amounts of money. It's never anything serious. And Vietnamese don't like confrontation, so heavy crime isn't a big thing, you know? So you won't worry too much about getting mugged, robbed, beat up in public, stuff like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think the biggest crime that you see, like when you're in the major cities like Saigon or Hanoi, you'll get petty theft, stuff like that within the city. But it's still small. Like when you walk around with your phone, have like a strap on it. There's not a lot going on. It ranks 175 out of 180 freedoms that you have to take granted. Yeah, so Vietnam is definitely not a free country. I don't know why that's right here. It is a one-party blah country. I can't say that word apparently. But yeah, you get what you get. Ask Cuba. But in regards to crime, I wouldn't worry too much, man. If you're just out with something expensive, have it connected to your body. So if they do try to take it, they're taking you with it. Most crimes happen on motorbikes. Like they will just drive by and snatch stuff. They'll walk by your table, snatch stuff. If you got 2 or 3 vendors around you trying to sell you sunglasses, start making sure everything is on you, because they might actually be doing like a sting where they distract you and they start taking things. So it's pretty much how that is. How many expats and foreigners are living in Vietnam? 83.5. And this is about right. Population of Vietnam is like, what, 98, 99 million as of 2024. Most of the foreigners, though, they're in Da Nang, Hanoi, and Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. But yeah, you rarely see a lot of expats outside. They stay where it's comfortable. If you start moving to these like Dalat and stuff like that, you're kind of on your own. You need to learn the language. You need to find out where to go to buy stuff. And you're going to need to make friends locally. You can't depend on people. And a lot of people get lonely with this because they don't have anybody to relate to. Like, you can't go out to a bar, talk to a bunch of Vietnamese business owners, and expect to have that same quality conversation you will with business owners in like America or Canada. Typically, Vietnamese business conversations turn into who's got more money and who's bought more expensive stuff. Where when I did these talks in America or these meetings with friends, it was more about how can we improve our companies better? How can we give more back to the communities? It was very polar opposite stuff. Living in these like remote areas, you're going to have that. A lot of people typically don't last more than a couple years before they have to leave. Like they have to go back to the main cities or something like that. Is Vietnam affordable for expats? Yeah, Vietnam is really cheap. It's a little more expensive as a tourist. So if you're coming here as a tourist for a couple of weeks or a month, you're going to spend way more than you would if you actually lived here. Rent out here is like $200 or $300 a month, maybe $400 to rent like an apartment. But if you're doing like hostels and hotels, you might be looking like $500 to $700 in hotel fees for the month. So it's a very different avenue that you take, but it is extremely affordable. I think Vietnam and Thailand are the 2 most affordable countries to live in Southeast Asia as of right now. What language they speak? Vietnamese is the big one. English is being removed as of 2025, so that's going to start going on its downturn. Central Vietnam, you'll see a lot of French, and Russian is pretty common. Da Nang, actually, a lot of the Vietnamese there speak Russian over English, and it's because there's a high Russian population there. So for them to financially be able to sell to their customer base, it's good to speak Russian and Vietnamese. Where should I live in Vietnam? If it's your first time coming here and you're here to work and live, Hanoi and Saigon are probably your 2 best. If you're here as a long-term tourist and you're younger, I would strongly suggest like Da Nang. If you're a little older, Hoi An would be better for you because it's way more calm. Hoi An's good for younger people as well. It's just the party scene's not as there, and it does lack a lot of modern stuff you'd see in Da Nang. And like I said, Saigon and Hanoi are great because it's easy to find jobs. It's actually quite hard to find jobs outside of those two cities that pay competitively and long term. Where do most expats live? I just kind of said that. But yeah, so Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi are where you'll find like the South Africans, Europeans, Americans. Da Nang, you'll find more of a Russian population. It's kind of the same with Phan Thiet as well. And when you get farther up north, it's a mix of a lot more Filipinos. And places like Vung Tau are actually high population for Filipinos, mostly because of the teaching. How much does it cost to rent in Vietnam? So I kind of talked about this before when we talked about like tourism, being a tourist versus living here. Your rent rarely costs more than 50. Dude, if you're paying $1,500 a month for rent, go back home. Like, that's insane, bro. $1,500 a month. I could get like a 5 or 6 bedroom mansion in like most of Thailand outside of Bangkok. But typically, you're looking at like probably like $300 to $500, maybe like $400 to $700 a month if you get something a little more expensive. If you're getting $1,500 a month, you're probably within the city limits. You're paying premiums because you're not Vietnamese. Because no Vietnamese would ever pay $1,500 a month for rent. No Vietnamese ever would do that. Even the rich ones don't do that. They find ways to buy houses, or because Vietnamese, they're not really smart with money when it comes to long-term investing and stuff, but they do realize, oh shit, I can't pay rent next month if I get this today, you know? So this is a very high price. You can't find these. And I've seen them. I've got to tour some of them, but it's insane. I lived in Bien Ton, actually, right here, when I was back in Saigon 2016, and I paid $850 a month, I think, for a 7-bedroom, 4-story house. I have an old video I did about that. But I'm thinking of that house and doubling the cost. That'd be like a hotel at that point. You might as well just rent all the rooms out to your friends and just become a business rather than live in Vietnam. My advice on this is make Vietnamese friends because they know where to look online. There's actually 2 main websites for this. And when you know people, they might have an uncle that's trying to rent their house, and they love to rent to Westerners because they know they get money fast. Can expats buy land in Vietnam? No. Vietnamese can barely do it anymore because they keep changing the laws. For a Westerner, you can do China's 75 years. I should just look at the article. 50-year lease. China's like 75 years, I think it is, or 70 years. But that's for citizens too. But anyways, Vietnam, you can't buy land, and I'm gonna just say this out. You don't want to buy land in Vietnam. The construction quality of Vietnam is quite shitty. Things break really fast. Like within 5 to 7 years, houses are falling apart. They got to be like kind of rebuilt and reconstructed to an extent. Foundations need to be repaired. There's no real reason. And another problem, and this is what a lot of Western people, Australians and Americans do when they come out here, is they'll get married to Vietnamese. The wife has to actually buy the property. You cannot. Even if you're married to her, she has to put it in her name. When you do that, you have to give her the money. She buys a house. I mean, obvious, right? But if you ever get divorced, you have 0 chance to win anything from that property. The government will not defend you. No lawyer will be able to convince the government to say, hey, give this money back to the non-Vietnamese citizen that you cannot tax or take from, and he's about to take all the money and go back to his home country. They're going to favor the Vietnamese wife. There's been a few cases I've seen where the children are involved and the Westerner was able to get custody of the children to go back to America. There's actually a guy that did that, and he moved back to Seattle, Washington or something. I believe it was Seattle or it was San Diego. But it does happen. You're going to have a lot of money to pull that off. But when it comes to real estate, I wouldn't buy, bro. I would honestly just do like 3 to 5 year leases. 50-year lease in Vietnam. Most people don't stay in Vietnam past 7 years. They get fed up with it. You want to retire. You want to chill. You want to relax. You want to wake up to the calm sounds of nature and stuff like that. Vietnam is not that. Even in the most remote areas of Vietnam, it's karaoke, honking, and yelling 24/7, right? If you are going to try to retire in Vietnam, get married, I would pick one of the spots I talked about before, rent a house for like a couple years and just kind of get a vibe and start moving around until you find the spot that you want. And if you do decide to buy a house, do keep that in mind. You're investing in a guaranteed lost cause. Because if you ever get divorced, you lose it all. If you have children, you can't give it to them. It's a lost cause. So keep that in mind. Just rent, I think, is the best way to go. How do I get a Vietnamese residence card? There's 2 main ways. You get a job, or you get married, or if your descendants are Vietnamese. Those are like the 3 ways, I guess. I really should just read the article. So a working visa, a temporary residence permit, and a permanent. So temporary, that's a TRC. Temporary is from work permits. A permanent resident is a Vietnamese that has parents that used to be here. I believe, don't they call the marriage one a PRC too? Or do because marriage, you get a 5-year TRC unless they've changed that. This was the law back in like 2019. But yeah, so a working visa will give you that TRC. This is a temporary resident card permit, so it should be TRCP for set. But yeah, permanent resident, I don't think you get one for being married. Because during the pandemic, they were actually refusing to renew people's TRC card or resident cards, even though they're married, and tell them to go back to Australia and America. But I know with the permanent, I know a guy in Saigon, his father is Vietnamese. He fled during the Vietnam War, and he came back to Vietnam. He was able to get a permanent residence, so he has to renew it every 5 years, I think it is. Like, he actually has to leave the country to do it. And I met this other guy in Hanoi that's from Germany that does the same thing. So let me know in the comments below so other people know. But permanent resident cards, I believe you have to have some connection to the country, bloodline. How do I find expat jobs in Vietnam? The best ways to do this is Facebook, Zalo. It's a chat program out here. And then there's a website. I'm going to do a video on it here in a couple days on how to apply for jobs out here. A really good website I like. But the website's really good. It allows you to shop for jobs that are focused in Vietnam under a criteria. And jobs place their advertisements directly on this website, so you don't have to deal with these like scams of agents and stuff like that. Getting a job through an agent is another option, but it turns into a headache because a lot of them don't know what they're talking about. They just read the Facebook post and then they make their own version of the post and try to connect you to that job. You see what I'm saying? So I would kind of avoid it if you could, and just go through like the website, or even just go to I just did a video yesterday about this, going directly to the websites like ila.edu.vn, or going to like the EMG website, or going to the VUS website and just applying directly. So you know what they're going to pay, you know all the benefits, you know what's required of you, yada, yada, yada. When you go in there, everyone knows what's going on. Real estate, another upcoming sector. Vietnam's property market has seen a special growth in recent years. Property rises 90%. It has. I don't know why this is right here, but yeah, again, don't buy. I would rent year by year. Sometimes you can get deals if you agree to do like a 3-year lease. Go for it, you know what I mean? But 50-year leases, that's insane to me, bro. Like, I had, to this day, only met 4 people that have ever stayed in Vietnam past 10 years. Seriously, one of them's a business owner. Another one's actually hidden out in northwest Vietnam, damn near by China. Like, he's away from it at all. He lives around Hmong people, like minorities. He doesn't live around Vietnam people. Another one, she moved here from California. And I hope she doesn't watch this video. She's aging very fast. She's becoming very grumpy. And she's starting to look like the other Vietnamese girls. And she's starting to get like negative talk. Like, she's getting tired of stuff. She's missing family. She can't find a husband out here, because she doesn't want to marry Vietnamese guys. And she doesn't want to marry foreign guys because a lot of foreigners don't want to stay in Vietnam past like 5 or 6 years, and she knows this. So, yeah. Anyways, I wouldn't buy houses. Let's get off that rant. Next one, how do I open a bank account as an expat Vietnam? You need to have a lease sometimes for where you're staying, and then a letter saying where the money that you're going to be putting into this account comes from. So typically you're opening a bank account in Vietnam because you're opening a business or you're going to need a job out here. If you get a job, they're going to give you a employment contract, show that to the bank, show them your business visa or your work permit, and they open up an account. It's really that easy. But that's really all you need. One thing to know about Vietnam, though, when it comes to bank accounts, is they don't really give out Visa, MasterCard, so it's really, you can't like export money that way. Even the citizens don't really get Visa cards. You have to pay a monthly fee. It's quite expensive, and it's a hassle to get. There's so many regulations on it. The chat app Zalo is how you can pay for, like, go to a restaurant, it's how you pay them, it's how you transfer money. Everything is done through Zalo. It's kind of like in China they have WeChat, right? So everything's done that way. Visa cards are hard to get. A lot of Western people I meet come out here, open bank accounts, thinking they can get a Visa card and transfer all their money to crypto using the Visa card or sending it to PayPal. And they get disappointed because foreigners really can't get Visa cards. If you own a business out here, you can. But again, I've had that before and it's regulated. So careful on that. What is the currency in Vietnam? It's Vietnamese đồng, bro. Gold is used to purchase land or houses. That's actually true. US dollars for luxury items. Yeah, if you're buying like a high-end car or something like that, Vietnamese đồng dated it. So it is common because when you get married in Vietnam, they'll give you gold. Like family and friends will give you gold. So it is common to buy land with gold. You can use cash. This is just traditionally how Vietnamese do it. US dollar is used for higher end stuff because it's very hard to pay $80,000 for something Vietnamese don't. $5,000 in the US is like that thick, right? But Vietnamese is like that thick. Now multiply that by like $50,000 it costs to buy a car. Like, dude, that's ridiculous. That's a big stack of money. So US dollars are used. I've never had to do it that way. I usually bank transfer. How do you pay taxes? Foreigners have a 10% based on your income. They say from 5 to 35. I don't know what that's talking about. The flat tax as of right now, 2024, is 10%. The company you work for takes it out. Cost of living, $500 to $700 a month if you're basic. If you drink a lot, do a lot of extra activities, $1,000 to $1,200 a month. More than $3,000, you should have like $3,000 when you first move out here, so you're comfortable. You're not rushed to find a job. You're not desperate. You're not starving yourself. But overall, yeah, like if you're making $1,000 a month, you're comfortable. Really, you are. As long as you're living here, you're not going hotel to hotel, but you have like your own apartment or condo and stuff like that. In regards to this nonsense, like we've already debunked it. I haven't. The medical field has, so you don't need that. What are schools like in Vietnam? School, it's a pay to play. Unfortunately, no matter how hard you try, at the end of the day, the parents pay for the grades. The teachers will extort the students, as in we will help you pass the test unless you come to our house and pay extra money to us. The whole education it's a joke, unfortunately. And these kids graduate high marks, the best marks, graduate university and end up working at coffee shops or working at their mom's house making noodles. And a lot of them, in education in Vietnam, the degrees and stuff do not transfer outside of the city. So if you have a university bachelor's degree from Saigon, hypothetically as a Vietnamese, it's very hard to get a job in Hanoi with that degree. Because even Vietnam knows their own degrees are not really good. So keep that in mind. Education out here is kind of sad. It's probably why they're getting rid of English, because they realize it's just a waste of time. Because, I mean, who goes to school for 12, 15 years learning a single language and still can't speak it? Like, that blows my mind that Vietnam still has English centers in Vietnam. What are the international schools in Vietnam? How much do they cost? International schools, if you bring your kids here, dude, homeschool. Don't send your kids to these. But typically it's like per semester you're looking like 15 to 20,000 sometimes. It's quite expensive, but it's not worth it. American Institute, Canada, Australia, all these international schools still have to follow the regulation and rules of the Vietnam government policies. I always recommend homeschool. I've been saying this since 2020. Just homeschool, bro. Homeschool. Work hard, get as rich as possible so you can homeschool your own children. That is the best way to go. I don't care if you live in America. My advice would be the same. That kind of does it there. Checklist. I'll scroll slow, pause as you go. But this is what they recommend doing. Healthcare. I've said this in older videos. Have $100,000. You're set for life. Before you go, blah, blah. So that's kind of it there. So hopefully it guys gives you a nice feedback of this information. I thought it was kind of a cool article that they shot my way. I've never even heard of this guy. So this is not a sponsored video. I can't even promote it. I'm just going to tell you the link is below if you want to check it out. But I'm going to get out, guys. So till then, I will see you again.